and welcome back to What Do You Believe? Cool, what's up, everybody? I'm here with my mother, Annette Greer. Hey, Mom, how you doing?
Hi, everybody.
All right, so I don't know your exact title, the whole shebang. So why don't you tell everybody who you are? And we know who you are. You're Annette Greer, but what do you do?
What'll I do? Well, my title is Dr. Annette Greer, Associate Professor, Bioethics and Interdisciplinary Studies.
What's interdisciplinary studies? What's that?
Oh, that's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You don't want to know all my degrees. That'll just make your dad mad.
Oh, well, okay. All right. So the main reason we wanted to do this today is because you said you got an email from Duke or something like that talking about COVID-19.
Oh, yeah. So Duke has a program called One Health, and it's something that I believe in very much. It's kind of like the earth is an organism. It is a living thing.
Right.
The trees, the plants, the air, the animals, the water, the atmosphere.
It's all alive.
It's all alive.
Right.
And we are like little cancers on it.
Why do you think we're cancer?
Because we do things to the earth.
But aren't we a part of the earth? Didn't we come from the earth?
We are a part of the earth, and according to the Bible, we did come from the dirt.
Right. So
but God breathed into us the breath of life.
All right. So we're part of the earth.
We are, but God ran us out of that garden because we sinned. And ever since we committed that little sin, we've been working against the good Lord and the good earth. Mother Earth and Father God. We've been working against them and creating pollution and disease.
What doesn't what's up with all the dramatization? Well, doesn't like volcanoes put out a whole bunch of
they do. They put out a lot of gases. They certainly do.
Like more carbon dioxide than all of humanity, pretty much, every
But
year.
They also build land mass.
Yeah, but still, we build more people. So
that's the point, though. We have built more people until the resources of the earth are overburdened by the people.
So
when God said, "Be fruitful and multiply," we kind of overdid it.
So how many people should live on the earth?
Oh, I would have to look that up, but I can tell you that right now we probably do not have sufficient resources or distribution of those resources.
I think it's the distribution, not the actual having the resources. So
that's what you believe.
Exactly. That's why I call this what I call it. So you think that there are too many people on the earth, but you would have to look it up to find out what somebody else thinks is the number that should be on the earth, correct?
Yes. However, I believe anytime you have a problem with distribution and there are people in hunger, in poverty, who are dying because they don't have the resources, they don't have housing, that something is not right.
Gotcha. I think it has to do with a lot of things, but mainly education. But so let's go back to this Duke thing, because we totally took a
different nosedive.
Yeah, we went totally off the rail. So tell me about this Duke thing.
About One Health?
Yep, because you started talking about it, and then you started talking about how the earth is a living organism, which I understand that.
Okay.
But let's get back to the Duke thing.
Okay, so Duke has a program. It's One Health. And they kind of believe, like I do, that the earth is an ecological system. And when things are out of balance between animals, the environment, and people, and when animal environments and people are in very close proximity, they impact one another. And oftentimes that is how our viruses, diseases arise. And that's not anything new. That is historical. When you look at the Black Plague, it was rats who had fleas who were carried on boats from port to port. I mean, it's nature.
So it's nature's antibodies to destroying its cancer, which is us, which is what you think.
Yes, it is what I think. I believe that nature has its own way of taking care of itself. And the reason I believe that is because one of the many degrees I have is agricultural science, and I studied animal science. And when your father farmed and we hunted deer, we worked with the North Carolina Wildlife Association to do a deer study. And we would calculate the size of the herd per geographic area based on the numbers of does and bucks that we were killing. And when we processed that meat, we would measure their jaw size, their kidney fat, and document any tumors. And the issue was when a herd is overpopulated, then it has anxiety and is stressed, and that biochemical reaction to stress depresses their immune system, and guess what? They get cancer. And that assists in keeping the herd down. It's kind of like
So,
Darwin's survival of the fittest.
all right. So, technically, we shouldn't be fighting against this COVID thing because it's nature's way of thinning out the herd, so we don't get. So you totally think we should spread it, and whoever needs to die, so that the herd gets thinned out because there's too many people living on the earth.
What I believe is that there are different ethical theories and different ethical principles, and that yes, our current healthcare system is actually fighting against nature. That our medical healthcare system, all in all. Now, granted, that if it wasn't for that medical science, I probably wouldn't be here. And many others probably wouldn't be here. But we are extending life because of our medical science, which means we have this whole population of elderly or sick people or immunocompromised people that wouldn't normally be present on Earth. And if we look at Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, we are causing those animals, individuals, and others who are less fit for breeding to be present and to survive, and therefore we're overpopulating. So we're actually counteractive intuitively to the science of anthropology and other things based on that. Do I believe we should do that? Well, from a very selfish humanistic standpoint, heck no, because I like living. And I like when my grandmother had heart surgery at 86 or whatever age she was, I, was 100% behind it because I wanted my grandmother to live. And so does everybody else. But that doesn't defeat the belief that we are countering. And what I'm saying is we should have a plan for, and I think some scientists are thinking of that, if we're going to overpopulate, maybe we should be looking at Mars. Maybe we should be doing other explorations of the world, because we're certainly going to run out of resources on the earth, especially the way.
I personally don't think we'll ever run out of resources on Earth
Oh,
ever.
okay. So why do you believe that?
Well, well, we still got away from your Duke thing. I guess we're destined to beat this topic right now. So let's talk about your Darwin's evolution, right? So humankind is uh, the species that is controlling the Earth, correct? Right now, we are the dominant species of the Earth. Would you say that humankind is the dominant species of
I
the
would
Earth?
say that humankind is the dominant species of the earth that's influencing the imbalance.
Right. And okay, you agree on that? Yes. All right. So, how do we get to where we're at? Is
We
I
got.
I I say it's because of our brain.
Why? Because of our brain. Why do you think it's because of our brain?
Well, why wouldn't you think it's because of our brain? Because we're the smartest animal on the earth.
Um, well, some,
Don't you think that humans are the smartest animal on the earth?
not necessarily.
Why not? What's a smarter animal?
A dolphin might be.
Do you know if a dolphin is?
I don't. That's just, I said it might be. I think,
Why would you think a dolphin might be? What gives you evidence that a dolphin is smarter than a
well,
human?
dolphins, and there are some other species of animals that have certainly been around historically longer than human beings.
Yep, but so
So it is
alligators and all that stuff.
survival.
So
It's about survival.
are you saying that alligators are smarter than humans?
Well, I'm just saying that they certainly have been around a lot longer.
All right.
It's called species survival.
I got you. All right, so but our ancestors, so technically if you want to talk about Darwin and you believe in what he did or what his beliefs are, we all derive from the same organisms. Because we eventually as mammals were previously before mammals we were reptiles. Before then we were fish. Before then we were single-celled organisms, and all those things came out of a soup pool of
No,
cells.
that's you're putting words and thoughts and beliefs out there that I necessarily don't
No,
believe.
but
I
that's what Darwin
No,
believes.
Darwin didn't necessarily believe that.
Oh,
I think
what
he
no no
I
what did
think
he believe then?
he believed in God, believe it or
No,
not.
he didn't.
Yes, he did at the end
We've
of
already
it.
talked about
Yeah,
this.
not on this we haven't.
No, we haven't.
Look up Darwin and read toward the end of his life. He was agnostic most of his life, but he did, in fact, toward his latter years, believe that there was more to the theory. I believe that God, a being that had power, uh, formed man. I believe that man was, and if you analyze our bodies, you will find that we have minerals. I mean, we have iron, which forms the basis of our heme.
Calcium, A, B, all that good stuff.
All that good
Yeah.
stuff. We're made out of that
Yep.
wonderful, wonderful elements.
All right. So the area in which you come from as far as your education is also the kind of education that they teach in schools, and they do not teach that God created stuff.
No, they do not.
They teach what I was saying, that we all come from single cell organisms that evolved due to survival of the fittest, that everybody was a dinosaur. Dinosaurs evolved into people or to mammals. Mammals evolved into a monkey. A monkey evolved into a person.
I think that is man's attempt to define who God is and to limit God as a being
But they don't teach God in schools, so that they
in his
do not.
creation.
Your science that you are accredited for does not believe in God. Because if it,
There are a lot of individuals in
but
science who
I
do not believe in God.
no
Correct.
no the status of what is the belief system of our culture that is taught to our children has nothing to do with God.
I I can't say that I believe that.
If you were to walk into
And I
a
believe
if
that.
hold on one second.
Okay.
If you were to walk into a public funded school like South Lenore High School, where I went
Mhm.
to high school,
Mhm.
they would not teach you that you came from God.
That is correct.
Right.
But when I was in high school and I went to a public high school, religion was taught as a topic. And within colleges, religion is still taught as a topic.
Yep.
And in many private schools, religion is still taught as a topic. And I believe that the issue therein is that there were some people that said we should not teach religion. And I think religion is a sociological construct, but spirituality and God is not.
Well, that's your belief, but that's not the belief of the authority which mandates what is taught to humanity in our public schools that you pay your taxes to.
Uh, uh, I believe that governments, and that is in essence in our on our money, is printed in God we trust. In our Constitution, it talks about God. And so I believe that, in fact, our government, that is the foundation of the United States, believes in a higher power. And that higher power, if we believe in our money, does have an, in God we trust.
But
So,
why isn't that taught in South Lenore High School?
oh, I don't know.
Okay. And I'm just calling out South Lenore High School because that's where I went to high school, and it's just an easy way for us to associate a standard.
But I can tell you that in most instances, the majority of K through 12 individuals who currently teach have a belief system in some organized religion. May not be Christianity, may not be Judaism, may be Hindu, may be Muslim, but they believe in an organized system of religion that is structured to pass down morals that enact the behavior of a society.
So does Hindus believe in God?
They believe in multiple gods.
Okay.
And in
Like
fact,
Shiva or something like that, or all that kind of stuff?
they
Is that-
have lots of different gods. But in fact, if you study religion within Christian religions, Christians and others, when you read the Bible, you will find that they believed in God, but they believed in other beings as well,
Gotcha. Like the Nephilim?
like the angels and like other gods. They
What
just believed God was the head God, the one God.
Oh, all right. So you're saying that's in Christianity?
Hmm.
So what other gods are there besides the God?
I am not a theologian. While I have taken some theological classes, I do not have a PhD in theology, so I cannot answer that.
Well, you have the viewpoint in your mind that those gods exist because you either read it
Huh?
or somebody told it to you.
Correct.
So, did you read it? or did somebody tell it to you?
Both.
All right. So were you were these during your theology classes in which they said that?
It could have been.
I should have been a lawyer. I should have been a lawyer.
Yeah, you missed your calling, Kyle.
Anyways. You're a little
Do you
turd.
want to get back to COVID-19?
Yeah, let's get back to COVID-19. Allegedly, maybe. Like, good God, lady.
COVID-19, what do I believe? I believe that COVID-19 is just what Dr. Fauci says. It is a natural occurring virus that emerged from the interaction of One Health, environment, animals, and human beings. Do I believe that it started at one single point and no other and spread? No, I don't. I believe it was naturally occurring across the world because the same animals, bats, human beings, and other animals occur in more than one environment. I think it was appropriately identified in that organization. Do I believe that it was being previously studied by the Virology Institute in Wuhan? I do. Do I believe it was studied in UNC Chapel Hill labs? I do.
So you think? Hold on one second. So I can sum this up. So you believe these viruses, or the specific virus COVID-19, was being studied in multiple different places and somehow was released simultaneously from these places?
No, I don't believe
So
it was released simultaneously from the places. I believe that it occurred naturally in nature simultaneously at different points and times, and that it had been in the environment but not identified, that Wuhan is where it began to impact large population sets and therefore was identified. But I believe that we have community acquired COVID-19 that you cannot track backwards from the individual that's been diagnosed to it. You can't track it back to Wuhan. And so it means that that virus was naturally occurring in that alternate environment from another source.
So nature simultaneously released it.
No, I don't think that was the time, a point in time at which it was released all at once, or that it was released. I believe.
So here's the globe. You think it was released at some point here, or it was created. Nature created it, correct?
No. Yes, nature did create it,
Make
but
up your mind.
I do not believe that it was released from that one area in China at one time and spread across the world in less than a month. What I do believe is that it was a naturally occurring virus that had been within the environment. And yes, it did spread from Wuhan, but what I am saying is that there had to be other points at which this virus had already naturally been occurring in our environment, and that perhaps there were some individuals who have been in those environments that already had some herd immunity because of their exposure.
You were saying it's naturally occurring in the environment. So nature is creating this.
Yes.
All right. So nature is created this all at the same time. Like, so here's America, here's China. Nature's creating it simultaneously at the same time across the world.
I am saying that it was asynchronously created at different times.
Okay,
And here's why if
nature created it in America, skipped 6 months later, it created it in China. 6 months later,
it
it
could
created
be
in
18 months earlier.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like time.
And it had to be if Chapel Hill was already studying it, and we do have some, well, we already had SARS and we already had MERS, which were coronaviruses. And so those coronaviruses have been being studied. And I think as individuals have found coronavirus within the naturally occurring environment, they have been studying them. And the reason I think that is because I worked with teams at Duke who are looking at emerging viruses and thinking that if we study those areas in which there is the cross pollination, if you will we'll use that word, or where simultaneously those things are within the same environment, then they are going to occur. Well, it's not going to occur just in one location in the world. It's going to occur at multiple times across the world when the same environmental conditions and the same factors are there at the same time. And that may be why in this area we have less of the COVID-19. And the only reason we can know that is to check the antibodies of people who haven't had any symptoms to determine, well, was it already here? I mean, we're only testing those people who have current symptoms. Until we test everybody,
Yep.
those that have it and those that do not have it, or who don't have the symptoms of it, then only will we have a complete picture.
Right, so you got to test the entire world.
I'm sorry, but yes,
Why do you say you're sorry for?
because that's a very costly and very taxing thing to test the entire world.
Well,
But
somebody's going to make a lot of money off of it. Somebody has to make the test.
oh yeah,
I'm sure they're not.
somebody's making a lot of money.
I'm sure they're not sorry that it's going to happen. They're going to be like, hey, we're trying to make the world better, and we're making a lot of money. Hey, you know.
Yeah.
What I mean, that's going to have to happen.
In
right?
this whole thing, there's a whole bunch of people losing money, but there's somebody in the loop making some.
Oh yeah, I agree to that. With the dramatics.
Yes.
Well, so you're also telling me about you did some studies with the pig farms.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We did bioaerosol and we did slurry. Bioaerosol is just doing air studies of the air.
Okay.
And it sucks in the air and it captures any particles in the air. So you look at the RNA and DNA that you capture within that. And then within a slurry, it's like hog manure with all its beings and everything that drops into it. And so we find flu, different types of flu, maybe A, maybe B, maybe C, maybe PRRS, maybe corona. You find lots of things in air and manure. And that's why I believe it could have occurred naturally in more than one location. Because those things, those environmental conditions, and those, not only the environmental conditions, but the presence of the animal species and the humans are co-located in the same place. in more than one location in the world at one time.
I gotcha. So, and nature created this. So you're saying that I understand what you're saying as far as the animals being in the same type of animals being the same location and proximity to each other, but in different parts of the world. And then one day, nature was like, "I'm going to take these animals and create viruses from their interactions."
But it didn't happen in one day. It could have happened.
Well, it has to. It has to. There has to be day one where that new thing is created. Correct?
Yes, but it could happen one day, 2 days later, 3 days later, 4 months later, a year later, 18 months later. It's occurring based on the environmental conditions and those other proximities, as you say, at different time frames. But the manure hit the fan in Wuhan when the conditions and the virus were in a crowded place.
So you think there could be a possibility we've already experienced it?
I really do believe that if there was some way we could genetically tag
Yeah, put a tag on everybody in the
no,
world.
I'm talking about
Yes.
genetically tag the virus that you would find that it there were different strains of that virus that come from different locations. And I think that's one of the reasons why now they go, oh, this was community acquired, because they really can't explain or trace it back to a single person that came from Wuhan. It had to, that's just me. That's just what I believe.
Okay. Well, I guess we're just gonna have to get implants in everybody.
I'm not for that. I would refuse. I go, get your gun. Don't be putting that in me. And that is something that is not recently thought of. If you look at movies, you will see the implantation of those thoughts into our humankind decades past. And I was in a Washington, D.C. 30 years ago when they were like, oh, we're going to put chips in people's head and we can upload and download information. Well, you've seen that on Star Trek before, and you've seen that on some of the other movies before, and so
Yeah, like
people
the Matrix or something
oh
like that.
yeah, plug me up, booster. So people have been thinking about that and imagining that, and they believe that 30 years ago that they could do it by putting those things in your brain and uploading and downloading information and putting it in your arm so that it regulates your blood sugar and also your blood pressure and all these things. Do I believe that's possible? I do believe it's possible. I believe the technology and science is out there to do it. Do I want it done to me? Heck no.
But you're part of the entity that is creating research and data to promote that coming of implants.
Yeah, sure. I mean, frankly, 20 years ago, they were talking about putting sensors in military people's clothes or in their body, that when they were shot or injured or killed in war, that we could tell whether they were alive or dead, because you don't want to send a whole group of troops into another area where everybody's already dead or where there's no chance of them living. I mean, that was talked about over 2 decades ago. What I do believe is that all of the things we're talking about today has an ethical basis, and that in your generation, I'm old enough now that my thinking is really not going to have a lot of influence on the ethics of future and what is determined. But I believe that your generation and my grandchildren's generation really need to be taught morals, ethics, spirituality, so that they can identify their values for all human beings, for our environment, for all animals, and they can make decisions about the science that they create, about the medicines they create, about the technologies that they create, that are based on morals and principles that are sound and just and good and respectful of animals and people and the environment. The One Health model.
As long as the population still continues to go down.
Well, I think we have to make, as adults, informed decisions. If we know that our resources are limited, then perhaps as adults, I would really hate for it to have to be legislated as it was in China. But maybe we should say, I want another little cow and I want another little cow's spouse. But I think that's enough. That's replacement. Nobody gets over 2 children or should have over 2 children. It's called being responsible for your health. So, like now, we talk about prevention and they talk about, so many other things. I get so frustrated when we talk about abortion when there's prevention for pregnancy. Or, I'm obese. So why am I obese? Something about me, psychologically, mentally, is not attended to because I continue to eat for some reason, right? So that's using other resources that should not be used up. So we have to, as a people, if we want to avoid regulation, we are going to have to be responsible beings, and we are going to have to teach our children and future generations that to preserve humanity, to preserve our animal kingdom, to preserve our environment, we're going to have to be ethically responsible human beings.
Gotcha. But who's going to make the laws in which our ethics are derived from? Just the population in general. Do you have to have written laws, right?
Not necessarily. There is a difference between religion, ethics, because ethics is a science,
but
and laws.
But you're saying you can have 2 children, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should only have 2 children. Well, that would have to be a written law to stop people from doing that.
No, what I said was that we have to teach people ethics and self-responsibility so that they make the right decisions. And we know that people are human and flawed. And that's one of the reasons that hadn't been done thus far, is because we have variability in education, variability in socioeconomics, and all those different beliefs and different foundational basis of being is, why we have some families that have 13 children and some that have none. A religion does have something to do with that, because some religions feel that you should not have birth control, or you should only have natural birth control, while other religions feel that, or non religions feel that it is irresponsible to give birth when we're overpopulated. I mean, there's a variety, but there's got to be some coming together and understanding of what it's going to take for our world to survive.
Yeah.
I have friends who they believe in green environmentalism, and they're not very, pro fat people, obese like me, because they believe I'm irresponsible. These same people jet off into millions of lands everywhere, here, yonder. And that, to me, is irresponsible. Some people believe if you use plastics, it's irresponsible.
So you're thinking, just to clarify, you believe that because they're flying off to different other places, they're burning jet fuel, they're causing more greenhouse gases,
Mm-hmm.
and you think that's irresponsible on their part.
Oh, yeah, but I love bananas. Have you ever looked at the carbon footprint of a banana?
I looked on the ground, but I didn't see it.
It is huge, because it is grown only in certain geographic areas where the climates and environment are conducive to growing bananas.
Well, that's what a lot of things. You got sugar, you got
Oh,
avocados,
exactly.
tobacco,
Exactly.
everything.
Exactly. But it's those things that our desire for certain things as a society that is actually causing this problem with resource distribution, and they alter our carbon footprint. And you're going to lead me into climate change. What do I believe about that? I
didn't say that.
believe that
I didn't say anything about climate
well,
change.
I'm going to say it because I believe that the environment is changing. I believe it has changed from the birth of the earth till now, and that it will continue to change. But I also believe that this overpopulation of the earth and how we utilize resources augments the natural climate change. We either speed it up or we slow it down. It's kind of like, since we've had COVID-19, LA and other cities where they had to shelter at home, they had no more fog. You could see the sky.
I saw an article where they're talking about, the sky's so much prettier in LA, and the picture they used for that article was taken 3 years ago, because I know for a fact, because one of the tall buildings is in the middle of production. It's only halfway built. It's called the Intercontinental. So they were actually using a clear, beautiful day 3 years ago to say, oh, look at the LA sky. So there's a lot of misinformation out there as well.
Are you saying that there's fake media, Kyle?
I think all media is fake. All of it.
So what do we believe?
Oh, I don't know. I know what I believe, but I know that I keep who I trust to a very small circle, maybe 5 people. Mom, Dad, you and Lee. I mean, Lee and Meg.
Yeah.
That's about, or 4 people. That's about it. Because those are, like, I feel like trust.
You're included, Meg.
Yeah, Meg. Yeah, I said Meg, Lee, you, Dad. So I was just thinking 5 because all of us. Trust is the biggest thing that exists. In God we trust. Your money, like that. like any relationship, whether it be romantic or just family or business or anything, is all based on trust for it
Correct.
to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, this whole overpopulation thing I think, is a farce. Personally, I think the world is going to get over 20 trillion people one day. It's going to happen because you cannot. I mean, you could make a law, but you'd have to make the whole world, and then you have to have the one world government. You have to have all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So
Because
where are you going to get all that water
they're going to make it.
utilities that you need?
Well, so the America throws away way more food than we use,
Uh,
without a doubt.
Resource distribution.
Yeah, and exactly. I do not think that we as a people in America are overpopulated by any means, or even the world. I think the resources, like you're saying, are are falsely scarce. Like I've seen, without a doubt, videos of milk producers pouring out gallons and gallons and gallons of milk to run up the price of milk. You know what I mean? It's like the milk is perfectly fine, but they're going to pour it on the ground before they sell it because it creates scarcity. And every commodity in the world is like that. Not only
That's
food.
called an economic threshold. Is it cheaper to
No,
to throw it out than
Yeah.
to bottle it
Yeah.
and send it out?
So,
You're actually
but
losing more money when you bottle it and send it
Yeah.
out when the prices drop.
and that's a money thing. It's not the fact that there isn't enough resources for the people out there. It's a control of money.
It is
That's what I think is going on right now.
demand. It is a marketing demand and
It's manipulating the
production.
market. That's all it is.
Manipulating
That's all
the
it is.
market.
And that also
We
carries
do that
over.
in academia too by limiting the number of disciplines we graduate.
Yeah, and you do it with everything, especially our dollar. Like right now, we're printing trillions of dollars, and not only are we printing trillions of dollars, the entire world is printing their own currencies, the yuan, all that. They're printing it into oblivion.
Is that why we're going to go to cryptocurrency? One currency, one world?
I don't know. I don't know for sure.
What do you believe?
I have no idea. As far as when it goes, I think there will be a digital currency, but I can't tell you. It might be gold based, but I'm not sure.
Well,
I listen to a lot of people. I listen to people like a guy named Peter Schiff who thinks crypto is a tulip scheme.
Mhm.
And I listen to other people like this guy named Pompliano is his last name. He thinks Bitcoin's the next big thing. So I listen to a whole bunch of different viewpoints. People, but as far as like what I truly believe in is all about speed. So anything, it's how you're able to transfer value and transfer,
Over time?
or the less amount of time, the better. And liquidity is what a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, that's the other thing I didn't factor in earlier was time. And you know what? I
Quit
need
doing that. You're going to miss my cord.
I need I need to say, I need to have a disclaimer here. All the opinions expressed in this discussion are mine alone and not of East Carolina University and not of Duke University and not of UNC Chapel Hill or any other university.
We should have led with that.
Yeah, we should have led with that. That these are mine and my observations and my readings. So I just want to put it out there that I am not representing anyone other than myself, because when you're employed or have a relationship with another academic entity, you have to be very careful to make sure that you are representing yourself and no one else.
Right. All right. You got that out there.
Okay, got that out there.
Nice. But back to the population thing. Everything, like even our money, like there can be, I think there could be 40 trillion people on Earth. Totally think it can happen.
Where are you going to house them?
You see
How are
that?
you going to manage the
You
water?
you see that big old field right beside you? You could put up, instead of putting up these houses, you could put up condos, and that's gonna like
Yeah, but that
you're
requires
looking
that
at
the soil be the type of soil that will hold the weight of that. Have you not seen where the land just caves into these great big holes?
I have seen pictures of stuff like that. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I've also seen the amount of land that is around everywhere, and I've been to New York, and I've seen how people live on top of each other, and I think they can do that everywhere. And all it takes is technology, and that only takes is people willing to spend money, and that only takes is people with money thinking that they're going to make money in the long run later on. It's all about money, like to me personally.
So money makes the world go round. Isn't that
No,
sad?
I, the will of people makes the world go round. Money is just uh the the way of making it happen. Like, so Lois and Clark, they wanted to cross the United States or go down to Missouri. What did they do? They went down to Missouri. Either way, it's like their will is what projects things. It's like not, but money is not good or bad,
They had to have it to
but
get
it
there.
creates it.
They went, from there to the West Coast, but um you said a very good thing in a way. You were talking about value and how money is given value or not. Where apparently our dollar doesn't have a lot of value, or we wouldn't be printing it on paper.
The
It
dollar's
goes
strong.
back
The
to,
dollar is strong right
but
now.
it's only because people trust
No,
in it.
the only reason. Oh,
It, in my mind, money is an imaginary construct of trust
yeah.
because it is actually the engagement and interaction of people engaging in commerce. And commerce doesn't necessarily require money, but it does require you having something that I want, either a service or a product, that I am willing to exchange something of value for.
Yeah, but I have to value that exact same thing.
Yes,
So
whatever it
that's
is.
the trick.
And so if I go to one country, it may be the dollar. If I go to another country, it may be the pound. If I go to another country, it could be whatever the other country's money is. But I have to have trust in whatever it is and in the exchange rate of value.
All right. The reason why I got you. The reason why our dollar is so strong, and it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter that they're printing the mess out of it, is because it's the world reserve currency. So you can only buy oil in the dollar. That's the OPEC agreement, all that good stuff. So, to me personally, I believe that not the dollar, but oil is the true currency of the world right now. Because nobody goes to work. Nobody gets their groceries from the grocery store. Nobody gets any plastic made whatsoever. Nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. You can't go and dig cobalt mines to build electric cars without oil. You cannot deliver anything without oil. Oil is the currency of the world right now. And the American dollar is the reserve currency, which you can only buy oil in. So that's why we have such an upper hand as in America. We have the upper hand in the world right now.
And that is what you believe.
Oh, that's the truth. I believe it because it's the truth. That's what's going on. It's like your glasses, oil. If this is polyester or whatever, made out of oil, like half your house is probably made out of oil.
There's so many
Your
products
car,
that
not only does it
we
run off
don't
oil, it's
realize.
made out of oil.
And I think
Cosmetics.
right. so many people who are green environmentalists have tried to do without things that come from that and are amazed at how much of their life is bound up with that.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why products like hemp, who could be used in multitudes of ways, such as fire retardants and concrete and textiles and all these other products, has such a high level of resistance because it would compete with an existing market of products.
Oh, and it costs too much to make hemp. Like, it's still, you grow it and you get sunlight for free, but it's still not as cheap as it takes for them to pump oil out of the ground. And that's like, all you have to do is buy the land. And then that's free forever and ever and ever. As much as oil comes out of the ground, it's free to you.
Yeah, but think about it this way too. Oil is mass.
Yep.
And we're pumping it out.
Uh-huh.
So we're reducing the mass of the earth. We're also we also have water underground, and that is mass. And we are extracting water from the ground. So at some point, you're reducing the mass of the earth. How is that going to affect the stratosphere of the earth?
You're not reducing them.
You look at aquifers.
Quit yelling. I'm in your ear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're in my ear. I mean,
you look at aquifers, and there is space, and you're emptying that space.
I got you. I know what you're saying, but you're still.
And it's going to collapse at some point.
You're not really reducing the mass, because you're just transferring the mass from below to above ground.
But you're leaving a gap of.
And all that water you take in and you put in your toilet or wherever.
But it's not going back into that space. It's not going back into that space, and that's why we're having so many earthquakes and other things. Is because we are altering the tectonic plates.
I don't know about that.
I do. Ask the people in Kentucky and Oklahoma and all those areas where they're doing fracking, where they're fracking, and they are having more and more earthquakes and shifting of the land. You take anything that's layered and has water or oil and leave an empty space and see if there's not some kind of collapsing or moving of that soil.
I got you. I know what you're saying.
Good.
But I just don't. I don't think we're doing it so much that it would cause that. I think it's because at one. All right. So at one point in time, there was this thing called Pangea, right?
What's Pangea?
Pangea was when all the continents were together as one supercontinent.
Okay, gotcha.
And then everything split apart over time.
Gotcha.
And that's what science says.
Oh yeah.
And
they're moving together again.
Before all that, the whole entire Earth was nothing but lava. And where did the water come from?
Kyle.
Huh?
Are you saying that?
I'm only talking about the scientific narrative, Mom. I'm not saying what I really believe in. I'm saying I'm following
you're giving me
the scientific narrative.
Okay. I just needed
the course
to be
of study that when it says Annette Greer BS degrees, like bachelor's of science, and that science has a depiction of where the earth came from, where people came from, and it's written down, right?
Yeah. I mean, and we have evidence that says that was the case.
Right.
Through study of geology.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm just going through what science says.
I just needed to make sure.
I'm just going through what science says.
I gotcha.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, all that stuff's happening. Weren't no people here. Before dinosaurs, something killed all the dinosaurs. But our ancestors we technically had ancestors alive during the dinosaur time, correct? Or we wouldn't be here. Right?
Perhaps.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Perhaps either it's yes or no. I didn't ask you if
Well,
you. I didn't ask you if you
I
stole
haven't
something, lady.
done that far back. If I look at Walt Disney and their, the animals that went through that, I could say
Oh,
yes.
What'd you say Walt Disney for?
Why did I say Walt Disney
Yeah.
for? Because, they have these cartoon characters.
Walt Disney's teaching you what you should know.
That's what I'm saying,
Okay.
Kyle.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
They're
being,
teaching
you're being kind of
they're
obscure.
teaching our children that there were these little happy animals, and along came this little big thing out of the sky, and
A
it
meteor
hit the
hit the
earth, and then all the weather started changing, and the earth started moving, and they started moving where the food. I mean, that's what you learn as a child from that. Yeah. That's why I said Walt
And
Disney.
all that stuff happened before we were such a presence on the earth, is what I'm saying. And all that
Yeah,
stuff.
they don't have any people in those movies, so I don't think we were there.
Exactly. And all I'm saying is that all that
I think we
stuff,
came later.
all that stuff will happen while we're here and after we're gone.
Oh yeah, something's gonna happen.
But I'm saying the
I'm
earth,
telling-
the earth as a living organism, like you saying earlier,
Right.
it's gonna do whatever it wants to do.
It's
no
gonna
matter
age.
no matter what we do.
It's gonna get it's gonna age, and maybe we're causing it to age a little faster.
I don't think so.
I disagree.
No, we can disagree. You ain't gotta I disagree. You just
I
say-
disagree.
What would they say to you if you're in a meeting and one of your high level associate people and you go, oh, I disagree.
They would do what they do now and go, oh, that's an it. She irritates the hell out of me. I wish she wasn't on this committee.
You could just say, I just disagree. You don't have to drag it out. But yeah, I totally think that planet's not overpopulated whatsoever. I think there's going to be 20 trillion people on the earth one day.
Okay, well, God bless you. I hope you're here when that happens.
I mean, I might be. Who knows? It might
Yeah.
cut my head off and put my brain in a jar.
Gross. And they probably can. I mean,
Stick me in an Android.
I looked at something the other day about a human face replacement where just like we switch out kidneys and hearts and other parts, this guy did a a facial transplant, and it showed the guy who donated the face and then the guy who received the face, and I was like, whew.
Well, John Travolta and Nicolas Cage did a movie based on that. It's called Face Off.
Well, it's real science now.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's totally cool. Like if you had
So
somebody
who does the driving? Does the movie industry do the driving, or does science do the driving? Seriously, folks. I think that's another discussion for another day, Kyle. Don't you think this is a good point to kind of stop and say? And then for our next adventure, we will talk about the movie's impact on our reality.
I think you said it enough. You said it perfect. That was just the way you did it.
Ta-da!
And with that, I believe that it is the time to end because you want it to end. Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. And like my mom said, tune in for our next one. We're going to do one about the movie industry. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Mom. I appreciate it.
You were a challenge.
Oh, I'm going.
You're so much like your daddy. You're a challenge.
I actually left you off pretty easy.
Oh,
because you're my mom, and I love you. All right, y'all take it easy.
Bye.